The Christmas Pig, written by J.K. Rowling, illustrated by Jim Field. Chapter 13, The Night for Miracles and Lost Causes. Jack knew that he must have fallen asleep because he woke in pitch darkness. People were talking in his room. His supposed Gran and Grandpa had come to see whether he was all right. He kept his eyes shut because he wanted them to think he was still sleeping. "It's never been done," said a worried voice. "I'm not sure it's possible." "Of course it's possible," said a second voice. "It all depends on the boy, or whether he's brave enough." "He's very brave, but it's too dangerous," said a third voice, which was old and croaky. "I've been there many times. I know what I'm talking about." "I've been there too," a fourth voice. "Most of us have been there at one time or another." "I haven't," said a fifth voice, which was slow and deep. "Well, of course you haven't," said the first voice. "You're too big. I'm talking about us little things." None of these people sounded familiar. Jack was starting to feel scared. Who were they? He didn't want to open his eyes in case the strangers saw that he was awake. "If it's going to be done, it's got to be done tonight," said the second voice. "I'm waking him up." At this, a whole chorus of voices murmured their disapproval. But Jack was more worried about the strange sensation that something was climbing up the side of his bed. He could feel it tugging at his duvet. It was small, like a kitten. He could also hear the rattling of belly beans. Then, before he could make up his mind what to do, something poked his face. Terrified, Jack slapped the poking creatures away. He heard a crunching noise as it hit the wardrobe. The deep, slow voice said, "Ouch!" And the second voice said, "I've had just about enough of being hit." Jack groped for the switch on his lamp and turned it on. Blinking, he looked around his room. There was nobody there. The Christmas pig was lying at the foot of the wardrobe. Jack knew in his heart that he'd just hit the Christmas pig. Even so, he wasn't ready to see the Christmas pig get to his feet, put his trotters on his hips, and say, "If you hit me one more time, you horrible boy, I won't help you." Jack was so shocked and scared he couldn't move. He remembered Mom once telling him that the way to find out whether you're dreaming is to pinch yourself. He tried it on his own leg. It hurt. "You can talk," whispered Jack. "Clever, aren't you?" said the Christmas pig crossly. "Jack is clever," said the croaky voice, which was coming from a battered old matchbox car that had once belonged to Jack's dad. His hood was moving up and down as he talked, and his headlights had turned into eyes. "Stop being nasty to him. He's been through a lot of trouble you don't know about." "I've been through trouble too," said the Christmas pig. "In case you've forgotten, he tried to pull my head off, and I'm offering to help him. On certain conditions, of course." As if it wasn't strange enough to watch a cuddly pig and a toy car talking to each other, Jack now realized that lots of the other objects in the room had grown eyes and mouth just like the car. The wardrobe had big brown eyes, whether there's been knots of wood, and a mouth instead of a keyhole. His wastepaper basket had two little eyes on tin stalks, a bit like a snail's. Some of the things had even sprouted arms, spindly metal ones on his bin, and floppy woodly ones on his rug. It was sort of exciting, but mostly terrifying. "You've got to warn him how dangerous it'll be," the matchbox car was telling the Christmas pig. "Otherwise, he can't know what he's getting into." There was a murmur of agreement from all the things in the room. "I didn't know," said Jack. finding his voice at last. I didn't know things could talk. What he really meant to say was, I didn't know you could feel. He'd been very rough with these things earlier, and none more so than the Christmas pig. We can only talk in the land of the living tonight because it's a special night, said the Christmas pig. You know what night it is, don't you? Christmas Eve, said Jack. Exactly, said the Christmas pig. And that means there's a chance, just for one night. We couldn't do it at any other time, though we can get your pig back. I know, said Jack, throwing back his duvet, which was one of the few things in the room that hadn't sprouted eyes and wasn't talking. I'm going to the motorway. That won't work, said the Christmas pig. DP's in the land of the lost now, and if you want to save him, you'll have to go and find him there and come home together. There's no such place as the land of the lost, said Jack scornfully. You're making that up. At that, most of the things in his room began to talk at once. The box of tissues, both his slippers, and even the lampshade he'd brought to the new house from his old bedroom. It was extremely confusing and scary, and Jack didn't know whether he was more frightened of all these noisy things waking up Gran and Grandpa, would stop him going outside to find DP, or of the thing themselves. I'll explain, croaked the matchbox car, and even though he was one of the smallest things in the room, all the other things fell silent, perhaps because he was one of the oldest. The car moved forward on his rusty wheels and spoke directly to Jack. The lanes of the lost is where things go when you lose them, he said. It's a strange and terrible place, governed by its own peculiar laws. I've been there many times because you and your dad lost me so often. Sorry, said Jack nervously. It was true that he'd often forgotten where in the garden he had last played with the little car, which was why he was chipped and rusty. You always found me in the end, said the car. And so, thank goodness, the loser never got me. The who? Asked Jack. The loser, the car repeated. He rules the land of the lost. He is the reason things fell out of pockets when you thought they were secure. He's the one who befuddles your mind so that you forget where you last put your pen. The loser would like to suck every single thing that belongs to humans down into his kingdom forever. He hates the living and he hates their things, which he tortures and eats. The loser's going to eat DP? Whispered Jack in terror. Not as long as DP abides by the laws of the land of the lost, said the car. It's those who defy the law that the loser's allowed to catch and eat. Unfortunately, the loser makes the laws, and he sometimes cheats. I've got to rescue DP, said Jack at once. How do I get to this land of the lost? You can't, or at least not alone, said the Christmas pig. You're human, and it's a land of things. That's how it usually works anyway. But Christmas Eve is a night for miracles and lost causes. If you love DP enough to risk your life, then I'm ready to take you with me into the land of the lost, and we will see whether we can bring him home again. I do love him enough, said Jack at once. I love him enough for anything. All right then, said the Christmas pig. I'll help you on one condition. After we've found DP and brought him home, I want you to return me to the girl who bought me. Why? Asked Jack. Because I like her, said the Christmas pig. She didn't stamp on me. The old matchbox car began to say something, but the Christmas pig threw him a nasty look and the car felt silent. She won't take me back unless she knows you're happy with DP. So, Do we have a deal? Deal, said Jack at once. He didn't like the Christmas pig, but knew that he needed him. You should put something on instead of pajamas, said the Christmas pig, and take your slippers. But Jack wasn't going to be bossed around by the new pig, and in any case, it felt too weird to put his feet in things that were blinking at him. So he said, I'm comfy as I am. Now take me to the land of the lost.